All right, this is the code that we wrote earlier that has the callback help problem. If you want to code along with me, I've attached this code to this lecture, so download it and you can code along with me. Now, in order to resolve this callback help problem, we should modify our asynchronous functions to return a promise. So I'm going to modify one of these functions, and then I'm going to leave the other two for you as an exercise. So this getUser function should return a promise. Here we return a new promise. In the last lecture, you learned that this promise constructor function takes an argument, which is basically a function with two parameters, resolve and reject. And we use these parameters to signal the result of an asynchronous operation or an error. So let's complete this. We add a code block here. Now I told you that here we kick off some async work. In this case, our async work is setting this timer. So I'm going to cut this code and move it right here inside of this constructor function. Now, finally, we want to get rid of this callback parameter. So we delete that here. Now, in order to return this user object to the consumer of this promise, we're going to use this resolve function. So we call resolve and give it this user object. As simple as that. So we modified our getUser function to return a promise, and we removed the callback parameter that we had here, okay? Now I want you to use the same technique and modify these two other functions here, get repositories and get commits. So pause the video, do this exercise, and then come back watching. So one more time. In this function, we're going to return a promise. So return new promise. Here we pass a function with two parameters, resolve and reject. That goes to this code block. Now here in this function, we kick off some async work. In this case, setting the timer. And finally, we remove this callback parameter, and we use this resolve parameter to send the result of this asynchronous operation to the consumers of this promise. So we're going to resolve this promise with this array here. Okay? And one last time. Here we're going to return a new promise, pass the resolve and reject. And in this function, we're going to initiate some asynchronous work, setting the timer. Finally, we remove the callback parameter and resolve the promise with this array. Now, none of our asynchronous functions here take a callback. Instead, they return a promise. In the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to consume these promises.